Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our today's talk. We'll be starting shortly at 11 a.m. So for those who are early today, thank you for waiting patiently. While you're waiting, we would like to share with you our firm's video.
I founded the firm in September 1985 with the vision of seeking truth and justice for our clients and not just winning their cases. Over the years, the team has achieved many significant milestones. We are today recognized by the Legal 500, Asia Law Profiles, and Asian Legal Business as a recommended firm in various practice areas. While we have embraced technology to make our services efficient and responsive, we continue to grow on the bedrock of meticulous preparation and hard work, for which there is really no substitute. As legal practice becomes increasingly international, we keep ourselves ahead of the curve with our relationships with lawyers from around the world. Our firm is a founding member of the League of Lawyers, a growing international network of law firms in 20 Asian and European countries.
We believe in partnering with our clients to protect and grow their business. We achieve this by holding firm to our values of integrity and justice, while giving our best to deliver effective and efficient solutions. Instead of just legal services, we focus on developing great working relationships based on understanding and respect.
The firm invests in its team and emphasizes professional development. We are keen to share our knowledge and publish our articles on our website. And we also give back with our corporate social responsibility activities. We cultivate a passion for the law and enjoy what we do. This brings out the best in us for our clients today and tomorrow.
We regularly advise foreign clients, including many Chinese investors, and have a ready appreciation for different ways of doing business. In corporate matters, we offer relevant and commercial solutions, often raising issues that clients may or may not have realized before. In negotiations, we believe in facilitating win-win outcomes.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our today's talk, entitled Sharia Estate Planning, Introduction to Faraid and the Law of Inheritance for Muslims. My name is Marcus and I am an associate with Mao & Kuai & Associates, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Before we start today's talk, let me introduce the firm and what we do. Mao & Kuai & Associates is a mid-sized law firm that was founded in 1985 by Datuk Mao & Kuai. Our able team today comprises 22 lawyers and a support team of 19. Datuk Ma is today a consultant with the firm following his retirement from the Court of Appeal bench in 2015. The firm continues in its tradition today of working primarily with small and medium enterprises, family business, and individuals. We are a full-service law firm with a corporate department, a dispute resolution department, including litigation, adjudication, and arbitration, a dedicated employment industrial relations team, and a department focused on servicing the needs of the individuals and families. Our practice groups indicate some of our focus areas, which are supported by talents from both our corporate and dispute resolution teams. MWK Online Talks talk is part of our MWK Online Talks series. By way of background, we have been organizing monthly lunch talks at our office since 2013, some of which were also broadcasted live. But with the COVID-19 MCO, we have moved online in order to continue with our objective of sharing knowledge, raising awareness, and encouraging networking for clients, potential clients, and in-house counsel. This is our 11th talk in our online talk series, which has been attended by more than 1,000 attendees. Today, we are expecting 80 people who have already registered. Please visit our website at maoandkuai.com for more information, to read our articles, to sign up for more upcoming talks. We have two speakers for today. Anis will be speaking first, and after that, it will be Sarah being the second speaker. So allow me to introduce our speakers. Our first speaker is Anis Mohammed Sohaimi. She's an associate in our dispute resolution, employment, industrial relations, and individuals and families departments. She has a Bachelor of Law from International Islamic University, Malaysia, and she was admitted to the Malaysian Bar in 2018. Anis is involved in advising on Sharia estate planning matters such as drafting wasiat and understanding Faraid. Her areas of practice include general litigation, debt recovery, joint management body disputes, employment matters, land matters, banking litigation, and intellectual property. Our second speaker for today, Puan Sarah. She's a partner in our real estate practice group and Sharia estate planning. She has a Bachelor of Laws from the International Islamic University of Malaysia and a postgraduate diploma in Sharia law and practice from the University Technology Mara. She was admitted to the Malaysian Bar in 2007. She is involved in real estate transactions, Sharia estate planning advice, and real estate transactions include drafting sale and purchase agreement, transfer of property during lifetime and death, drafting tenancy agreement, reassignment, or discharge of property. Her Sharia estate planning advice includes advising on drafting of wasiat, preparation and execution of hibah, and understanding of Faraid. She is also a member of the Selangor Bar Conveyancing Practice Committee and the Kuala Lumpur Bar Corporate and Conveyancing Committee. Our speakers will target to complete their presentation by 11:30 and then take questions. If you have any questions, please don't forget to post it up on Slido or in the chat, and the speakers will address them at the end. So I'll leave this here for a while. This is the QR code for our Slido. If you go to the website, please enter number 76494. Okay, these are the top points for today. What is Faraid? Who are Quranic heirs? And what are basic portions of Quranic heirs? And why are there Quranic heirs that do not inherit? So before we start, I would like to explain on the COVID-19 Movement Control Order. It is pursuant to Section 11.2 of the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act 1988, PCID. PCID Regulations 2020 was gazetted on 18 March 2020, and it is effective from 18 March 2020 to 28 March 2020. It was further extended to 12 May last night. And the effect of the MCO is the restriction of movement except for essential service. So right now, we would like to pass this to Anis. Anis, I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus, for the introduction. Hello and good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is well. Before I begin, I just wanted to wish my fellow Muslims a happy Ramadan, happy fasting, and hope that this month will be a blessed and meaningful month for all of us. So today's talks covers Faraid. It is said that Faraid constitutes half of the Sharia law. So that just gives you an idea of actually how detailed the law of Faraid is. So today, me and Sarah will try to just cover the basics. So I will be going into the basic principles, while Sarah will take you through the calculations of Faraid in the end, and she'll provide you with some examples. So let's begin with what is Faraid. So basically, simply Faraid can be translated to succession. Faraid denotes the fixed shares of inheritance allocated to various relatives in the Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. And Faraid is important because it provides a systematic distribution of property upon the death of a Muslim and ensures that the surviving dependents and relatives of a deceased person will benefit from his estate. Now, before I go in any further, I just wanted to show how this diagram, because some of us are confused at how does Faraid function in terms of compared to wills. So here you can see from the diagram, upon the death of a Muslim, his assets are first to be used for his burial expenses, then to cover the settlement of his debts, and then to be distributed by his wasiat, his will, which we know is limited to 1/3. And then only then Faraid comes into the picture, where Faraid is determining the distribution according to the Faraid. So to understand the basic principles, it's worth going into the historical background of how Faraid came to be, to appreciate the principles. So in the pre-Islamic, because we know that we know that Faraid, that the law of Sharia comes in to rectify certain situations. So the law of Faraid came to rectify this system, which was designed to keep property within a tribe to maintain it as a fighting force. So in those days, tribes would fight one another, and there was many wars just because they wanted property. And unfortunately, this system seemed to acknowledge that property was power, but it went further to be even more unjust because it recognized that only this power was only allowed for the men. So it was really patriarchal. So only the men could inherit, and women could not inherit anything. In fact, they were actually seen as properties themselves. And we also saw situations where if you had a stepson or you had subsequent marriages, these wives could be inherited by another husband or the son itself, the stepson. So that's how much injustice that was going on. And not only that, there were only 3 grounds of inheritance, and it's actually a condition that for you to inherit something, it's not enough that you are a man, you must also have participated in war. So you can see how this requirement led to so many wars, so many tribal wars and fighting and deaths. And if you imagine the situation in those days, people would go to war, leaving their wives and their children, and come back, and a stranger would come and say, I now have your property, because another ground for inheritance was an oath. So people were going into battle and they were making promises to one another that your blood is my blood, your property is my property. So imagine the shock of some families when suddenly their loved one don't return, but comes a stranger claiming that your loved one has passed away, and they gave the property to you, and there was no way of checking, and it was just accepted in those days. And another ground for inheritance was adoption during the pre-Islamic period. Adoption here means in the sense that people would adopt sons, male heirs, if they didn't have their own. You may know that during the pre-Islamic period, female children, daughters were frowned upon, to the extent that some would also, throw away their daughters, because to them it was seen as this daughter could not bring them any more property. Their main goal was to get more property, so of course they wanted more males, more sons. So they would adopt sons just so that they would have a means to get more property. And then came Islam, came the law of succession during the Islamic period, and it attempted to throw all of these principles away. So now the law of succession was based on blood relationship and marriage. So there was no risk of you losing someone you love in war or in battles, and then you would be left with nothing. And Islam recognized that both men and women could inherit from one another. Parents and children were given their share. And so all the previous grounds of inheritance were abolished. And now the grounds of inheritance were blood ties, marriage, patronage, which is freeing of a slave by slave master. So Islam rewarded you for doing good deeds. So whenever if you freed a slave, you would then, if that slave had a property, you could inherit that property after they were freed. And there was also a concept that assets could be reverted back to the state. So the state could, if you had no heirs, the state could take your property and then they could put it to public use. So this was something that was introduced during the Islamic period. So we will go into the steps in Faraid. These are the 4 basic steps. So first, you have to identify family members, and it's not enough that you identify family members, it must be an heir. I will take you through the different categorizations, and you can see how complicated even this one first step seems. And once you've identified who survives the deceased, the relations, next you move on to, do they have any impediments from them from inheriting the property? So although you may be related to the deceased, if you've done something or you fall under a category where you cannot inherit from that person, then you will be excluded from inheriting the deceased property. Then we move on to division, which covers basically just identifying the assets of the deceased person and just seeing how it can be divided. And only then we move on to calculation and determination. So I will cover the first 2 steps, and part of the division part, we'll go into a bit of the assets. And Sarah will have the daunting task of trying to help you understand calculation and determination. So to go through the first step, you must first understand who are Quranic heirs. So we know that the sources of Islamic law come from both Quran and also Sunnah in the saying of the Prophet and the practices of the Prophet. And it also comes from Ijma, which is the consensus of the opinion of the majority of Muslim scholars. So out of all these three sources, there are only a few people whose portions, meaning who they are and their portion, whether it's a third, a half, or so on and so forth, is mentioned specifically in Surah Nisa, and I will show you later, but these are the verses. So Quranic heirs just simply refers to heirs whose entitlement to portion of the deceased property is expressly stated in the Quran. So for those who are not expressly stated in the Quran, we know that they have a right to inherit based on Sunnah and Ijma and the practice of the Prophet before. So this is Surah An-Nisa. It's 3 verses, so before you is only 2 verses now. So these are the first 2 verses that first came out, that was first revealed to Muslims. And you can see here there are mentions of daughters, parents, children, mother, and you can see that their portions are specifically mentioned. So in the first 2 lines, you can see that the daughters have 2/3, parents, they can have a third, and yeah, so you can see here that there's daughters, parents, children, mother, and wives. But if you notice, one thing is that sons are not mentioned. If you look in the first sentence, it's only mentioned that for the male, what is equal to the share of 2 females. So although it's stated male, it doesn't say that a son is someone who can inherit. But we know as a fact that they are legal heirs. So that's why we say they're not Quranic heirs, but they are legal heirs. So that's why you have to make a distinction of Quranic heirs. And this this verse was revealed much later after the 2 verses that was first revealed. But this was to cater to a situation where there was, to show how detailed the Faraid process is that, you know, you have to also take into account how many of those people there are. Are there more than 1 wives? Are there more than 2 or 3 sisters, brothers? And you will see later how even when you look at siblings, it depends what type of sibling you are, and I will go into that shortly. So here are the general classifications: inner family and outer family, Quranic heirs and residuary heirs. But you do have to understand that although inner family is divided into Quranic heirs and residuary heirs, it's not exclusive, meaning there are some that overlap, but these are the main categorization. It's a bit difficult to specifically categorize them because it is so intertwined and complex. But these are the general classifications that scholars have used. So first is based generally on inner and outer family. I will show you the difference, and then we will go into the categorizations under the 2 categorizations. So first is inner and outer family. So inner family basically means anyone directly related to you. So I wrote this relationship. If you look at the person marked with a star at the bottom right hand corner, these are the people, the relationship of these people in relation to her. And her inner family are those directly related to her. So it's her mother and her father and her brother who share the same parents. And I also wanted to indicate, say for example, if you took the father, who is his inner family, say if he deceased, if he passed away, who is his inner family and who stands to inherit, it would also include that father's own parents and his children and his wife. The outer family you can see are the aunts and uncles of that person. Your aunts and uncles and your cousins do not stand to inherit. They would have their own property, and it would be divided amongst their own family in that little bubble. So this is the general classification. And then if we move into Quranic heirs, they can be further divided to primary heirs, secondary heirs, and substitute heirs. So primary heirs are these people who, regardless of whoever is alive, these people will always stand to inherit something. This shows the strength. These are the strongest to you in terms of strength of blood ties. So your father, your mother, and also your husband and not your husband, your spouse, your spouse, although not related to you by blood tie, but they're related to you by marriage. So this is the strongest, so this is a strong tie, and then your children. So these people are called primary heirs because they stand to inherit regardless of who survives the deceased. Secondary heirs are your brothers and sisters, but they only stand to inherit if you do not have children of your own. And you can see that this is what I mean by there's different types of siblings. There's germane, consanguine, and uterine. So we'll see in the diagram after this how these are defined. But basically germane means some sister or brother. It basically means whoever shares the same parents as you. Consanguine is for those who share the same father but different mother, and uterine is someone who shares the same mother. You remember, because you share the same uterus, so it's a uterine sister, uterine brother. So these are the types of siblings that we will look into. And substitute heirs are people who only substitute heirs are people who will only inherit in the absence of someone. So it will be easy if I show you the diagram. So first we go into the siblings. So if you see here, if you look at the star, you see that she has a mother and father, but her parents are divorced. I put in the lines to show that they no longer have a subsisting marriage, but both have remarried. So the father remarried a stepmother and has a children from that other mother, and those siblings to the person marked with a star, you will call those are her consanguine siblings, a consanguine brother and sister, because they share the same father but different mother. And on the right is the mother remarried and married another man, and they also had children, but these children only share the same mother, so they considered uterine brother and uterine sister. So it matters the degree how close you are in relation to these people. Sarah will go further and how you look at the different classes, different degrees, but this is just to show you how it can be classified. Next, we go into the classification of residual heirs. This is where the son comes in. You can see it can be further divided even more. And you can see how there's different levels. There's son, grandfather, paternal. So Sarah will take you through this. But before that, let me take a step back. So I mentioned where there were substitute heirs. So where substitute heirs come into question, say for example, the lady marked with a star passes away. So her father would stand to inherit something of her property, but her father has unfortunately predeceased her. So there's no one to take her father's portion. So in this case, the grandfather will come and take place of the father. So that's where the substitute heir comes in. But as long as the father is alive, the grandfather cannot inherit. So yeah, this is to show you how there can be many levels. So if we follow the same example of the father being deceased, say if the grandfather also the grandfather was also deceased, but you still had your great grandfather, it will go up to that extent that that person will take your father's portion, and it works both ways, going up and going down as well. So we've gone into how to identify family members and their role and their significance. Now we go on to having identified who the family members are, whether they have anything impeding them from inheriting. So because you have to be related by blood ties, these are the people who cannot inherit. So there are illegitimate child. So if you're an illegitimate child, you cannot inherit from the mother, but you cannot inherit from the father, but you can inherit from the mother. And if you're an adopted child, you cannot inherit because there's no blood tie unless you adopt someone who you're related to. Say, for example, you adopt your son's son, or you know that sometimes it occurs. And you have the suckling who cannot inherit. He just only shares breast milk, but no blood ties. And this is in terms of marriage. So the relationship is marriage and not consummation. So as long as there is a subsisting marriage and there's no divorce, then you stand to inherit. Having gone into the impediments, we go into the division of the assets. Is just basically to consider what property can be distributed according to Faraid and which cannot. So you can see on the screen, so what can be distributed. So it includes property acquired by the deceased during his lifetime, debts due to the deceased, and subject to some conditions, EPF, tabung haji, and takaful can be distributed according to Faraid. The main point here is that it has to be something that was owned by the deceased before he passed away. But what cannot be included in the distribution is property held on trust, khairat kematian, pension, derivative gratuity upon death, and jointly acquired property, because mainly there's some element which is not fully the ownership of the deceased. So now I've covered the first couple steps. I pass it on to Sarah to take you through what are the basic portions and the calculations of these portions.
Assalamualaikum and good morning, everybody. Salam Satu Ramadan. It's first Ramadan for everyone who is Muslim, and we are fasting. And I am very pleased that I am joining Anis for this talk, giving you guys this talk on Faraid. Of course, it's not a simple task, but I will try as much as I can for sharing and preparing this matter. Okay, so without further ado, I will now share my slide on what are the basic portions of Quranic heirs. Okay, so as Anis has pointed out, in Islam, in Faraid matter, we have a lot of divisions of people in our heirs. It's basically classifications of the inner family and the outer family, and also the classification of residual heir. So when before this, we had a talk, MWK had a talk on wasiat, which is Muslim wills. And that talk, there was a question that asked, do we have in wasiat a residual clause? The reason why we do not have, and I think I've mentioned this already in that talk, and I will repeat here, is because we have what it's called residual heirs. In this matter, it's called asobah in Arabic term, asobah. So residual heirs, they inherit all the deceased property residually, meaning any other balance of the portions will be inherited by them. So what you have seen from Anis' share, let me just give it a quick one. Here, if you can see, the residuary in their own right here, and residuary through another, and residuary in the company of the other. This is all asobah. This is what's it called balance. Balance of any of the portion of the property of the deceased is distributed according to this. And what my colleague has already shared is all the persons that can inherit, and these persons are according to the strongest tie. So it starts off with the son, then the grandson, how low soever. Then if there's no heir down, goes up. So it goes father, then paternal grandfather, germane brother, consequent brother, this is the sides, and all this. I'll show you on that as well. Okay, and this one, asobah in the sense of togetherness. This is asobah bin nafsi, it's called. This is asobah bil ghairi. So asobah bil ghairi, it comes together, means that in Surah An-Nisa, it did mention that a daughter, if there is a son, it shares the portion, which means it's asobah. It's the balance of whatever other people has taken. The balance is shared between the daughter and the son at the rate of 1:2. So meaning that the daughter at 1 portion and the son gets 2 portion. So here, daughter will share with son, son's daughter, which is most probably your chuchu or your grandchildren, will share with the grandson, germane sister with the germane brother, consanguine sister with the consanguine brother. So in other residuary, there's 3 types here. So another residuary is germane sister and consanguine sister, where there's these two, is just these two kind of classification, and it's called asobah ma'al ghairi. These 2 classification, and only these 2, because there's no son, there's no heirs of the first. So if there's an heir of the first, then these 2 cannot share. They are even impeded from getting their portion. All right, so just a little quick recap on that, so that I can get everyone have a little bit of a mindset of what asobah is. So I will now share with you my slide of what are the portions of Quranic heirs, or rather the Faraid. Okay, so coming to this, you will see that the portions here, that these are the, how you say, 6 people, like how my colleague has mentioned, 6 people that no matter what, these people will get a portion. Yeah, so these are the main persons that you need to know what are the portions that they receive in Faraid. So if a wife dies and leaves a husband, you can see that they will receive, the husband has 2 kinds of portion. You have to look the situation. So one is the situation whether that person, that husband has a child. If no child or no grandchildren, how low soever, how far low it goes, there's no one there, no heirs going down, then the husband will get half, all right? But if, let's say, there is an existence of a child, whether it's a son or a daughter, then it becomes a quarter. So it's a half of the half, so it becomes a quarter, all right? So why? Because you need to share the portion with the son or the daughter, okay? So next is the wife. So if the wife, it starts off with 1/4, quarter of the portion. So this is if there's no children, no child at all. How low soever, child, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, no one, how low soever, it's 1/4. If there is, then it is 1/8. And just a quick note, if it is a child who is adopted, they are not considered as a child who is in there. So if this couple, one of them dies and the other one survives and they have an adopted child, the husband still gets half because the adopted child will not inherit. Yeah. Okay. Father, there is 3 kinds of categories. First is the 1/6. If there is a son. Okay, if there is a son, the father won't get so much because they have to share with the son, so it becomes 1/6. Yeah, and if let's say there's no children at all, I jump to this because it's the most important one, is asoba. Asoba, the first one I mentioned just now, asoba bin nafsi, means that there's no children involved, no son, no daughter, then asoba. But if there is no son, but there is a daughter, okay, Islam has made it in such a way that even the categorization of male and female is very important. So if there is a daughter, then the father will get 1/6 and any other balance after the deduction of everyone else's portion. Okay, so let's just say there is a daughter, there's a husband, there's a, of course there's no wife lah, because if the wife dies, I keep on saying wife dies, never mind. So if the wife dies and leaves the father and a husband and a daughter, then this situation comes. So the husband will receive 1/4, yeah, and the father will receive 1/6, and whatever is the balance. All right. Okay, so now the mother. Mother is of 3 categories as well. 1/3 if there's no children at all, and there's no siblings. Not the siblings of the mother, the siblings of the person who passed away. Okay, let's just say that in this case, the wife dies and doesn't have any other siblings, but has a father, has a husband, has a mother. So the mother will get 1/3. If the wife dies without any children, have 1/3 because there's no siblings and no children. Okay, but if let's say there is an existence of a child, or there is at least two or more siblings, the wife has 2 siblings, don't care if brother or sister, then the mother will get 1/6. And here, please denote, it says or. Means either all of these situations happen, the mother will get 1/6. Okay, but in a very unique situation where if a husband or a wife dies and leaves only the father and mother, there's no heirs whatsoever down, okay, there's no one above as well, no one else, not even siblings, then the mother will get 1/3 from the balance. Okay, so whatever the balance is from the husband and the father and the mother, father and mother will in this case combine and it will become 1/3 from the balance, and that's how it's calculated. Very confusing, isn't it? You will see better when I give you the a bit of latihan lah. Okay, I'm sorry if sometimes I do speak in Bahasa because in Faraid it is best in Bahasa most of the time, but I will strive my best to speak in English. All right. Okay, so now we go back to here and it's the son's turn. The son, the most uppest, highest level of asobah bin nafsi. So highest level meaning that he will take every single balance of portion of the deceased property. Okay, so in the son's property, distribution, if a person dies, one of their members leaves the son, if has a daughter, if the person has a daughter, not the son's daughter, the person has a daughter, means the son here has a sibling, a sister, then the shares is 2 and 1. Portion 2, portion 2, 1. Okay. If there's any other things, like anyone else, no daughter or things like that, then it becomes asobah. Asobah bin nafsi. Okay, taking all the other balance after deducting everyone else's portion. Okay, however, if he is alone, if the family has a husband and wife, the wife dies and leaves the son and the husband, and he is alone, he's no one else, or the husband also don't have, then the son will inherit all. Is asobah bin nafsi, he will inherit all. Okay, or balance if there's more than one son, if there's 2 sons. Okay, now the last of the 6 important persons is the daughter. You see, daughter and sons are children, are kids, but in Islam, it has been recognized that both of them are to be separated in different kind of portion. Okay, in daughter, it is stated in Surah An-Nisa that the daughter's portion shall be 1 and the son's portion shall be 2 of a daughter. So if there is a son, if there's a son and a daughter, and it becomes 1 to 2, 1 portion to 2. Okay, now if let's just say there's no son and the only child, then the daughter will get half. Yeah, the daughter will get half. And if there is more than 1 daughter but no son again, then the daughters will get 2/3. They share that portion. Okay, all right. Now, what happens if, let's just say, I'll just put it out there. If you guys got a pen and paper, just write it down, okay? Let's just say the wife passes away. Yeah, I always take the wife passes away. Okay, sorry. Anyways, the wife passes away, leaving a husband and 2 daughters. So the husband will get a quarter because there's an existence of a child. No one else, no father, no mother, no adik-beradik, no siblings or whatever. So the husband gets quarter and the daughter will get 2/3. Okay, so when you make the calculation, 1/4, 2/3, if you make 4 and 3, 12, so 9/12. So that's the portion that's been used because the husband gets 1/4 and the daughters get 2. Okay, after calculation, it becomes 9/12. So you will see there's a balance of 3/12. And there's no one else in this situation, in this scenario. There's no asobah bin nafsi anymore. The husband cannot take the balance. The balance of that, the 3/12 of that, will go to the Baitul Mal. All right, that portion goes to the Baitul Mal. What happens is the husband or the daughter can come up to the Baitul Mal and buy back that share, because that share is actually a portion that's gone to the Baitul Mal. All right, so I would like to take this opportunity just to share that having that kind of situation, I repeat, that kind of situation, husband, daughter, and wife. Wife pass away, husband, and there's 2 daughters or 1 daughter itself. So the portion that's left is to give to Baitul Mal. Yeah, correct? So that portion can be taken. So these kind of things, what happens is, if you want to make sure that that balance of it is also being taken care of or given to other relatives or any other persons, you do a wasiat. So in a situation where a person dies, the structural sequence is that you have to pay the debts first, you have to go through the wasiat first, then the balance of the portion will be given to the family, the heirs. But let's just say there's nothing else left, then Baitul Mal won't get lah. But if there's nothing else left for other members also, they also don't get lah. But it must start with the debts, any expenses, and then it comes to wasiat and Faraid. Okay, so that's where me and my colleague Anis, we had given the talk on wasiat. It's very important to make sure that we get our wasiat done. And today's talk on Faraid is supposed to open or give some realization of how a portion works. Okay. All right. Without more further ado, let me just show you next slides. For those who have questions, you guys can give the questions in Slido, as Marcus has already given. I think one of our team members will be putting up the Slido code in the chat, so you guys can go in Slido. Make sure you put your Slido questions in the Slido so that we can address them later. All right. All right. Next, why are there Quranic heirs that do not inherit? So there's a lot of reasons why. I'll share with you. One, the most important one is stopped or impeded by other strong blood ties. Okay, so other stronger blood ties will stop a person from inheriting. Next is deliberate or intentional murder. Okay, deliberate means unintentional also can also become the reason why a person cannot inherit. Okay, the difference of religion. Okay, this is also why we had emphasized how important a wasiat is, because if let's just say you are a Muslim, you are a converted Muslim, and your parents is non-Muslim, okay, then your parents will not inherit your property, but they can inherit if you do a wasiat. All right. So in these two cases, it had been held that if there is no other heirs, the estate or the property will go to Baitul Mal. Of course, there was one case in Penang where there was only a very old mother and a converted son. She did not know her son had converted. She went to court and it was held that it was supposed to go to Baitul Mal. But of course, the court had also mentioned, Sharia court has also mentioned, that seeing the care by this son has been taking care of the mother, very old mother, and then she is the only heir left. The court had given direction to Baitul Mal to allow the mother to inherit. But it's a very one-off case. It's a situation, depends on the situation. Okay. All right. Another one is a slavery. A slave cannot inherit any property and he has no right, and everything belongs to his master. So if you have a slave here is not the ones that we have in common times. This is slavery when before this day of age. The slavery is really something that even not even getting any ample pay. The slavery is really, really different from what slavery is now. But the slavery in Islam, you cannot inherit. So when you free the slave, then only you can inherit. Next is the chain of family heirs. All right. Okay. I shall go with you one by one. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. We'll start with X. Okay, X here is the deceased. Deceased can be husband or wife. Okay, right. We have a top, green color, side, red color, middle, purple color, and bottom. This is the classifications of how Faraid will look into. Okay, all right. One. First, we go top. So the X dies, leaving a father, mother. This is the top. All right. And if there is a mother's mother and or father's mother and father's father. Okay, this is the grandparents. You notice that the mother's father is not included here. It's only up to mother's mother and goes up, mother's mother, and then it's goes up as well. Okay. What does this mean is that, let's say X passes away, X is wife, passes away and leaves a mother, no father, but has father, mother here. Okay, so in this situation, the mother will inherit, but this will not inherit. Mother will not inherit. But here, since father no longer there, then father's father will inherit, and so will the father's mother. Okay, So you go like that, that's going up, all right? So similarly, if any one of this is also missing, then that's how it works. Okay. This is the level, the going up, right? Going up is as important as going down. Okay, there's the son, this is son, this is daughter. This is son's son, this is son's daughter. If you can see that, there's no, not to say that the daughter doesn't marry or doesn't get children, yeah, but there's no recognition for this side. There's no daughter's son or daughter's daughter. The grandchildren of this side is recognized, all right? So in this case, let's just say the son is no longer alive, then the son's son, the grandson will get it. Okay, and go down, and it goes down to son's son. It goes down this chain, okay? The male heir, not the female heir, all right? Clear? So we have to be clear, top and bottom. Now, these are the important ones, equally important, all right? Because they hold the power to impede others from getting a portion. All right, next is the purple, which is the middle ground. Who is this middle ground to X? The deceased. The middle ground to X is the siblings. Okay, so germane brother and germane sister. Okay, this is from the same father and mother. So you see the arrows there, okay, or rather the lines there. Okay, now this is uterine brother, uterine sister in the case where the mother remarries or the mother had prior marriage. So this is uterine brother, uterine brother and uterine son, sister, sorry. Okay, so this purple line, that dot, 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 this is consanguine brother and consanguine sister. It's where the X has relation through father's tie. So as you can see, logically speaking, those that has this kind of lines is not so strong, or rather secondary, okay? So if the first one is around, then the second one will not be counted, right? So now, again, like the son and the daughter, germane brother, germane sister, anyone from germane brother going down means this person's, I would say, cousin. Wait, hold on. Germane brother's son, okay. Okay, sorry, nephew. Yeah, nephew, sorry. Nephew. And this one is consanguine brother's son. Son. So anything that goes down to the male, all right? Now, red, I purposely did the red line, and I'm purposely doing this last because this is side, and this side sometimes will not even inherit at all, unless all these other people are not around. Okay, so this side is from the father's side. You see the mother side is not included at all. The father side. So X's germane uncle, father side, not mother side. Germane uncle, father side. Okay, or a very secondary consanguine uncle, father side, right? So the ones that can still inherit is germane uncle's father side's son, not daughter, and also this one is consanguine uncle father's side's son. No daughters, okay? So this is all going down, all right? So yes, it's very complicated. I know it is. Okay, so I've given keys here, so I've explained each of them, all right? Okay, so next is which heirs, as you can see, those who cannot inherit through Faraid are mostly female. Female side of the tree. Simply because the strength of the blood ties is no longer as strong as the male side. Okay, so the granddaughter from the daughter side, the great-granddaughters, any side, any part, whether the son's one or the daughter's one, and the niece from germane brother or uterine brother or consanguine brother, all of them cannot inherit. The niece or nephew from the other side with nephew as well. So niece and nephew from GS, US, CS. If I go back here, GS, okay, US and CS. Any nephew or nieces from this side that's related to X will not inherit. So next is all aunts, okay, all aunts and all uncles from mother's side and all female cousins. Doesn't matter whether it's coming from the bloodline of the male, but all female cousins are not recognized to inherit. So what happens to them? So these are the categories of people that you can include in your wasiat. Okay, they can inherit 1/3 of your property. A Muslim, if dies without a wasiat, and you know you have all these people in your line, then you would leave them with nothing. That's where estate planning is very, very important. Okay. Next. All right. Let's do some two. I'll give two lah. Yeah? Let's do some of the calculations and portions. All right. So here, you guys can do it at home as well. I promise it won't take long. Okay. Here we have heirs. Mr., Mrs., or Miss Y or X dies, leaves. These are the heirs. This is the family members. Okay. A father, a mother, one grandfather, one grandmother, one grandfather from the father's side. Remember, there's a difference there, father's side, and grandmother from the mother's side. Yeah. And then you have the daughter, you have the son, and then you have the grandson from the son, not from the daughter, and then you have the granddaughter from the son. Okay. So, does the father receive anything from the deceased? Yes. Okay. So does the mother. Okay. The grandfather doesn't receive, and the grandmother also doesn't receive. Okay. Grandfather doesn't receive because there is a father. The father impedes the inheritance. The grandmother also doesn't receive because there is a mother. The mother impedes the grandmother from, this is grandmother from the mother's side. So the mother impedes. If it's the grandmother from the father's side, the father impedes the grandmother from the father's side. Okay. Then the daughter receives, yes. And also the son receives. The grandson, the heir going down, doesn't receive because there is a son. Then there's a granddaughter from the son, also does not receive because there is a son. So now let's look at the portions, right? The portion of the father is 1/6. The portion of the mother is also 1/6. The father is 1/6 because there's a daughter and a son, there's children there, okay? The mother is also 1/6 because there is the children there, and this is 0 because they didn't receive anything. And the daughter's portion is 1, son's portion is 2. This is the balance of the portion. After deducting the two portions above, then this is 0, this is also 0. So don't be confused, mother and wife, because this one doesn't have a husband or wife. So this is mother, this is your parents. Okay. So daughter and sons will get 1, 2. So how do you calculate this? It will be another talk because it will take a long time to calculate. I'll give more examples in that talk. Okay. One more example. Last. Okay, I promise. So the person dies with the mother, grandmother from the father, grandmother from the mother, daughter, germane brother, the sibling, germane sister, okay, and consanguine uncle from the father side, and consanguine uncle's father side son. Okay, the mother receive, yes. Grandmother from the father side, no, because there is a mother. Okay, grandmother from the mother side, obviously no, because the mother is still alive. Right, the daughter, yes. Children will always receive. Okay, just how much is the portion. Germane brother and sister, yes, they do receive. Reason is because they share. There's no son. Okay, there's no son in here. If there is a son, then there will be no receiving for germane brother and sister. Consanguine uncle of father side, do they receive? No. Simply because there is a germane brother. Not germane sister, germane brother. This is the person who impedes this fellow. Okay, germane uncle's father's side's son. No, doesn't receive. Also because there's a germane brother. Let's look at the portions. So the portion of a mother is 1/6 because there's a daughter. Okay, this one does not receive anything. This one also does not receive anything. The daughter here will, because she's alone, remember the situations I gave you? So because she's alone, she gets half. Okay, Jermaine brother and Jermaine sister. If the Jermaine sister was alone, she would get a different portion. But because she is not alone, she's with Jermaine brother. So Asoba bin Ghairi, yes, Asoba bin Ghairi denotes that she gets to share the balance of all the portion after deducting the mother and the daughter's portion. She gets 1 portion, the Jermaine brother gets 2 portions. Okay, because this 2 doesn't receive. All right, so that's all the time that I have on my part. I shared with you this situation. Of course, there's a lot of other situations. And if you would like to know more, you can contact us. Yeah. So now I will give this back to our moderator, Marcus. Back to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so now we will take questions from our participants from Slido. So let me share the screen. Okay, so we have 5 questions, speakers. So the first one, a converted Muslim is a single. Can his or her biological parents claim his or her estate? Sarah, do you want to take this?
Sure. Thank you, Marcus. So in this situation, the converted Muslim, I'm assuming that his or her biological parents did not convert. Converted Muslims cannot inherit and cannot give out their property, their assets to their non-Muslim heirs, meaning that if the parents is also non-Muslim, then they cannot. So the parents also similarly cannot claim for this converted Muslim's property estate.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Okay, second question. Any other options for adopted children to inherit a parent's estate other than by way of wasiat? Anis?
Thank you, Marcus. So this question actually, to say inherit, no, but there's other mechanisms where an adopted child can receive the property, but unfortunately it has to be before death. So an example is hiba, which we covered in a few weeks talks. So one way for an adopted child to get property is actually by way of a gift during the lifetime. So you won't say that he inherits the property, but he was gifted the property. But an adopted child, you have to understand that sometimes you adopt maybe your own niece or nephew. That means you have a relation, a blood relation. So in that sense, an adopted child can inherit in that way. But normally nowadays that we practice is that people adopt strangers, so no one with relation. So on that line, an adopted child cannot inherit unless the adopted child is related to you somehow. So that will depend as well.
Thank you, Anis. Next question. Is it correct to say that Faraid prioritizes male inheritance? Sarah?
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, it does look so, but there's a reason behind that. So it's not being male chauvinistic or trying to put male in a top line, but it's the whole reason that we were supposed to understand about Faraid is that male gets more inheritance 2 to 1. That is because the male is supposed to take care of the female, even though you're brothers and sisters. But unfortunately, as time goes by, most of us, because it's property, most of us forget this very basic principle understanding. Okay?
I wanted to add on to that. I mean, this is a very controversial question. I understand that we always see this question a lot. My response to this is always that in some ways, yes, it prioritizes, but I would say that it depends how you define prioritize, because I don't think that I wouldn't agree that it's prioritized male inheritance, because it just, how we see is that you get more, but more does not mean you get priority. It just means you get more responsibility, and that's why Sarah was talking about the females being responsible. So just because you get more does not mean you're prioritized. That's my position on the matter.
All right, thank you, Sarah and Anis. Okay, next, any rationale why wasiat only allows 1/3 of the estate to be given? Anis, you want to take this?
there are so many reasons. Sometimes we believe that there's a hikmah that we don't see, but basically to have wasiat is to have the limit is to avoid is basically to serve why Faraid exists. It's to avoid situations where people wholly give everything to one person and exclude the illegal heirs. So that's why it's limited, because you need to be very careful. So they limit it so that you can allow Faraid to not exclude anyone from inheritance. Because if imagine if the wasiat wasn't limited, then the same situation can occur where before Faraid came, where people can just give the way they want accordingly without following the principles and without regard to the values we hold dear to, that that you have to consider your parents and your siblings and all that.
Right, thank you, Anis. Thank you very much. Okay, so does it mean that an adopted child cannot inherit even by way of wasiat? Sarah?
Thank you, Marcus. So in this question, when we say inherit in this situation, is inherit through Faraid. So adopted children cannot inherit through Faraid, but you can inherit through wasiat, only a portion to 1/3. 1/3 would be allowed. Okay. Other than that, it's not possible unless you use the hibah way, which is before you pass away.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, next question. If a single lady dies, according to Faraid, how would her property be divided to, I think it's her parents, germain brother and germain sister? Anis?
I think this would have to go into the calculations, right? Sarah, you would have to list down, yeah. This one, we can answer to you in more detail later, but the portions, Sarah, do you want to go through it, or do you want to leave it later?
Well, just to give a little rough idea, if a single lady dies, means she does not marry, and then according to Faraid, her property will be given to her parents and germain brother and germain sister. The father especially will receive in asobah balance. The brother and sister will be sharing, and the mother also will be having. So all this will be taken into account, calculated, and have a Faraid certificate in the Sharia court. So of course, when a single lady dies, these you have to look at the whole scenario as well. Whether the parents, do you have uncles as well? You have to look into that. All these people have to come forward, and the calculation will be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, speakers. The next question is directed to you, Sarah. So did I hear you, Sarah, that a convert cannot inherit from a Muslim, besides the convert's parents not being able to inherit from him or her?
No, I said non-Muslim. Converts cannot inherit from a non-Muslim, and the non-Muslim cannot inherit from the Muslim.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Okay, if inside wasiat it is clearly mentioned that the property is given to everyone on the same share, does Faraid still apply? Anis, could you help us with that?
This one is a bit complicated, but generally it's been a practice that if this situation occurs, if the legal heirs can agree to this, can agree to the wasiat, and you get all the consent and agreement of all the legal heirs entitled that they are okay with the wasiat, then you can, by consent, have it distributed as such. But this consent must exist after the person's death. So usually you would always get consent and approval when that person is alive, right? But if that person passes away, you must have the same consent, because a lot of issues come only after the person has passed away. Because when the person is still alive, you always say, okay, yeah, we will make promises, but some people don't abide by their promises. So that's why it's important, if you want to follow this situation, you need to make sure that you are all in agreement after the person's death. And it's important that consent comes after the death. It cannot come before.
All right, thank you, Anis. So we will take 3 more questions, the last 3 questions. Okay, regarding the adopted child question, is there a blood relation? For example, I adopt my nephew, which Faraid portion do I follow as my own son? Sarah, maybe you can help us with this one.
In this situation, the blood relation will follow, meaning that you will follow as a nephew. So in order for the adopted child to have a higher ground, because sometimes nephew is taken away by some other, impeded by some other persons. So in order to make sure that this nephew, this son is not, you regard him as an adopted son, then you have to put it in a wasiat. That's better to put in a wasiat to mention how much this son will get. And in addition to that, everything, you have to look into your family tree. Does this nephew is going to be impeded? If it is, chances are, usually it is, if it's far, then you have to make sure that this nephew gets something, because now that you've adopted it as your own child.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Next question. Where landed property in the estate was sold to non-Muslim under sale and purchase agreement, but not yet transferred, can it be subject to Faraid? Sarah, I think this is more relevant to your your forte. So maybe you can take this.
Sure. Okay, as Anis also has mentioned previously, properties that are included are properties which includes this landed property. So it takes on to what is the extent of the property at that particular moment of time. How far has it gone? So now the property is being transferred, and it's already, you have to look into the situation and scenario. So the property is being transferred and it's being sold off, but haven't really transferred yet, means the new person, the non-Muslim, has not received yet. I understand the fear. The fear is basically afraid of the property going to the Muslim, the Muslim heirs, but that's not the case. The case is it will be subject to it as per the monies received. So the property will still be subject to Faraid, yes, but the monies received from it will actually be divided in the portions that's supposed to be given to the heirs. Okay, I hope that's clear.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Last question. If a child is an illegitimate child, is he or she entitled to inherit the parents' assets? Anis?
So the answer is no, because you have to be a legitimate child. You have to have a blood tie. So that's why the importance of marriage and blood tie. But although you may not have a blood tie to your father because he's not because they're not married, but you will always have a blood tie to your mother. So an illegitimate child cannot inherit from the father, but it can inherit from the mother.
Okay, Anis, well done. Thank you very much. I think that's the last question already. So thank you so much, Anis and Sarah, for your insights. Before we conclude, I have a few announcements to make. Let me get back to the slides first. Okay, so before we conclude, these are the few upcoming talks we have. Please join us again for our upcoming talks. So on next Monday, we have this impact on commercial contracts during COVID-19 by our corporate department, Cassandra and Tommy. And on the 29th April, there will be a construction talk, Resolving Construction Disputes by SIPA 2012 by Hannah and Christine. And because 1st of May is a Labor Day, we'll be skipping 1st of May, and our upcoming talk will be on 4th May 2020. It's unfair and constructive dismissal claims due to pay cuts and retrenchment by John. So here's our QR code, and then this is the link to sign up. Okay, secondly, please fill in our feedback form and tell us what you thought of our talk. The link will be in the chat. And thirdly, follow and like our social media accounts, and the links will be in the chat as well. Okay, and thank you very much. And fourthly, if you would like to speak with our lawyers, we offer a complimentary 30-minute consultation over the telephone or over video conference. Please fill in the form on our website, and the link is posted in the chat box. This is our QR code for the complimentary 30-minute video consultation. And to our guests, thank you for joining us today. We hope you have found today's talk informative and useful. All right, thank you very much, everybody. We hope to see you again in our next talk. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice weekend.